Have you ever felt that urge to just spill everything? What you're living, what you're dreaming, what you're planning? Like sharing every detail would somehow make the weight lighter? And then, right after, you realize something slipped away in the process. Like your inner energy faded a bit, disappearing like morning dew before the sun can even touch it. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. Not out of fear, but out of respect for your own energy. Wisdom often moves like a quiet, deep river, calm, steady, no need for noise. While the anxious mind chases validation, the peaceful heart knows not everything needs to be said to be real. Wise people dare to hide things, they protect them. They understand that what's sacred blooms in silence, like a seed sprouting underground, unseen but fully alive. In that quiet space, real strength takes shape. A wise soul doesn't share everything because they know some things only grow in mystery. Just like the moon doesn't announce its light, it simply shines. Some truths can only glow when left unspoken. Today, we're walking through this Tao teaching together. The 4 things wise people prefer to keep to themselves, not out of secrecy, but out of harmony with the natural flow of life. Lao Tzu once said, "Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know." Not because silence is some kind of trophy, but because certain truths fade when exposed to the world's rush. The wave, nature, moves softly. It doesn't need to be explained, only lived. Wisdom works the same way. It shows up in subtle actions, quiet awareness, and a calm presence that doesn't need to prove anything. The wise understand there's an energy exchange in everything we share. Every word spoken is like a seed thrown to the wind. It might take root, but it might also drift away. That's why they choose carefully what they release into the world, knowing there's a time to express and a time to retreat. In the path of the Tao, silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness. It's the space where things find their natural rhythm. When we stop trying to rush the river, it finds the ocean on its own. The same goes for our lives. When we stop oversharing what we feel, think, or plan, we give life room to move on its own. True wisdom is understanding that not everything has to be seen to be real. The unseen, the subtle, the unspoken, that's often where real power lives. Wise people hold things close, not out of distrust, but out of love for peace. They know every word has its right time, every secret its right ear, and every truth its right moment. When we talk too much, we scatter our inner strength. When we hold back too tightly, we suppress what's alive. Balance lives in feeling the moment like bamboo bending with the wind, never breaking, never resisting. And here's the first Tao lesson about silence. Anything born out of hurry tends to weaken. That's why wise people don't announce their plans before they're ready. Intention is a fragile flame. Expose it too early, and the wind of opinions blows it out. What's still growing inside you needs the warmth of silence to root deeply enough to bloom. Silence is the fertile ground where ideas take hold and become real. Another thing the Tao teaches us is the value of energy. Talking isn't just talking. It moves qi, your life force. Every time you speak, you give away a bit of that energy. A wise person pays attention. Who am I giving my energy to? What kind of words am I putting out into the world? There comes a point where talking too much turns into wasting your own power, and staying quiet becomes an act of self. It's not about shutting yourself off. It's about balance. Just like a mountain stands silent, yet its presence is felt from miles away. Someone who's learned the power of silence gives off strength without needing to announce it. In Taoist wisdom, silence and speech aren't enemies. They're like yin and yang, 2 sides of the same coin. Yin is about turning inward, holding space, nurturing the unseen. Yang is about expression, movement, and bringing things into the open. When silence and speech flow together, harmony shows up. There are times when the Tao speaks through us, and times when it just asks us to listen. Knowing when to act and when to stay still, that's the art of Wu Wei, action without force. It's when you move naturally, not from ego, but from alignment with life's flow. The 4 things wise people don't share come from that principle. They're sacred spaces of stillness that protect serenity. It's not about keeping secrets, it's about protecting what's too subtle for the noise of the world. These are the quiet parts of life that, when guarded with care, turn into deep wells of inner strength. A wise person doesn't spill every emotion because they know that feelings, when exposed too soon, lose their purity. They don't share every plan because life needs mystery to bloom. They don't brag about their good deeds because virtue that craves recognition has already lost its essence. And they don't overshare their wisdom because they know everyone has to find their own path. So silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness at rest. It's the space where the spirit breathes. The deeper the inner quiet, the softer your presence becomes in the world. The wise move without noise, speak only when their heart is in tune with the Tao, and hold silence not out of fear, but out of reverence for what's sacred. Some truths don't need to be spoken. They just are. Like the wind, they pass unseen, but move everything around them. And with that spirit, we step into the next part. The first practice, the art of awareness and acceptance. The first step toward understanding the power of silence and the value of what's held within the heart. Awareness is the first step of wisdom and the quietest one. Before choosing what to share and what to protect, you've got to really see yourself clearly, without judgment, without masks. Lao Tzu said, knowing others is intelligence, but knowing yourself is true wisdom. From that inner gaze comes the art of not wasting energy on what doesn't need to be said. Picture a lake at sunrise, the surface calm, reflecting the sky perfectly. But when the water's stirred up, the reflection shatters. What was clear becomes blurry. The mind works the same way. When we're restless, we want to explain, justify, overshare. Talking becomes a way to run from silence. But when the heart settles, that need fades. You realize not everyone needs to get what you feel, because what's real inside you doesn't need anyone's approval. ChatGPT's acceptance starts the moment we stop fighting. What is a lot of times that urge to share everything comes from this low-key anxiety that need to be understood. We want someone to say we're on the right track, that our dream makes sense, that it's okay to be who we are. But the Tao teaches that the river doesn't ask the ocean for permission to flow. It just goes trusting its own nature. Acceptance is when you stop asking for permission to exist. It's when silence becomes something natural, not something forced. The first thing wise people don't share is their inner life that's still in the making. The stuff that's still healing, still fragile, needs shelter. When we talk too soon about something that's still shifting inside us, we mess with the process. It's like cracking open a cocoon before the butterfly's ready. The urge to show it off ends up killing what's trying to bloom. That's why awareness is a kind of refuge. It teaches us to feel when it's time to speak and when it's time to just breathe. Conscious silence isn't repression, it's presence. It's that moment when you really listen to yourself and realize most of the answers were already there, even before you ask the questions. When you start observing without judging, your inner world settles down. Those messy emotions start finding their own rhythm. You don't need to force balance. It just shows up like bamboo straightening itself after the wind passes. In the Tao, acceptance is a kind of love. Accepting doesn't mean giving up. It means letting life be what it is while you stay aware. It's trusting that everything that comes your way has a reason, even if you can't see it yet. The wise watch their emotions like clouds. They know they'll pass, and the sky will still be there. When you go with the flow, silence stops being empty and starts becoming space. And it's in that space that clarity shows up. There's a kind of calm that only comes when you stop narrating every feeling. When you quit trying to put life into words and just feel it raw and real, awareness frees you from needing to explain, and acceptance invites you to rest in what's true right now. The river doesn't need to say it's flowing. It just flows. So the first lesson of the 4 things wise people don't share is this. What's still being born inside you belongs to silence. Protect it like you'd shield a small flame from the wind. Listen more than you speak. Watch more than you explain. And realize that keeping something private isn't about hiding what's beautiful. It's about letting it grow in peace. Awareness and acceptance are the foundation of wise silence. They teach us that real strength doesn't shout, it hums. Real understanding doesn't need to be shown, it's felt. And silence, when it comes from clarity, is the purest sound of the soul. In the next part, we'll walk through the second principle, presence, and Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, to explore how silence can turn into natural movement, and how life, when you stop trying to control it, finds its own perfect rhythm. When awareness ripens and acceptance starts to feel natural, something deeper shows up, presence. That's when silence stops being just a safe space inside you and turns into a way of moving through the world. The Tao calls this Wu Wei, non-forcing, or acting in harmony with the natural flow of life. It doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It's action that comes from balance, not tension. Wu Wei is what happens when you stop trying to push the river and just let it run its own course. Like bamboo bending in the wind without breaking. Presence is the art of responding to life gently but firmly. When you're truly present, your actions don't come from an overthinking mind. They come from awareness itself. The wise don't try to control outcomes because they get that life has its own rhythm for unfolding. They don't rush a sprout to bloom, demand the moon to shine every night, or try to hold back the tide. There's this quiet trust that lives in the heart of someone who walks the Wu Wei path, a wordless faith that everything finds its way when you stop trying to control it. And that's where the second thing wise people don't share comes in: the moves that are still forming in silence. Someone who lives through Wu Wei knows that true action comes from within, not from wanting to prove, convince, or show off. The plans, dreams, and steps that are still taking shape need quiet to grow strong. Talking about them too soon is like forcing a flower to bloom before spring. There's a secret timing for everything to open, and only presence can feel that timing. Presence is the opposite of rushing. It doesn't chase life because it knows life was never ahead. It's always right here. When we talk before we act, we waste energy. When we act without presence, we lose direction. But when we let silence come before movement, what we do becomes light, precise, natural. That's Wu Wei at its purest, doing without forcing. Action born from alignment instead of effort. The wise get it. Not every spark of inspiration needs to be announced, and not every idea needs defending. Sometimes real power hides in subtlety. The wind doesn't explain itself, it just moves the leaves. Presence is that inner wind, quiet and unseen, but deeply transforming. It teaches you to act without noise, to move without burning out, to accomplish without chasing validation. Wu Wei also saves you from the drain of comparison. When your actions flow naturally, you stop measuring your timeline against someone else's. Every flower blooms in its own season. Every path has its own pace. Oversharing what's still growing can pull you out of that rhythm. The wise one acts in silence and lets results do the talking. They don't need to announce their piece. You can feel it when they're around. Living Wu Wei is living in trust. It's knowing that life, in its quiet intelligence, always finds balance. When you're synced with that flow, everything gets lighter. Words lose the weight of anxiety, and silence starts to smell like peace. In that natural state, even time feels slower because there's no more resistance. What needs to come, comes. What needs to leave, leaves. So here's the second lesson of silence. Don't spill what's still in motion. Let your actions show up when the time's right. Trust that quiet wisdom that runs underneath everything, the same one that tells the river how to reach the ocean without ever asking for directions. It doesn't rush or explain itself. It just flows, following gravity's pull. No effort needed. Wu Wei teaches us that silence itself is a kind of action. Sometimes the smartest move is to not interfere. The deepest kind of strength is the one that moves quietly without needing to be seen. And real wisdom, it doesn't need to be announced. It's already alive in every conscious breath. From that still and steady space comes the next step on the path. The balance between yin and yang, the blending of opposites within us. Silence has two sides too: stillness and expression, rest and movement. Only when you get this dance can you truly live in harmony with the Tao. The balance between yin and yang is the heartbeat of the Tao. It's where silence finds the right words, where rest turns into action, where being and doing stop fighting each other and start moving together like music. Just like day and night take turns without any drama, wisdom is about letting both live inside you. The soft and the strong, the calm and the wild, the visible and the hidden. Once we understand presence and Wu Wei, we realize silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a force that keeps things in balance. Yin is the quiet, the stillness, the listening. Yang is expression, movement, and speech. When we talk too much, we throw off the yin. When we hold everything in, we smother the yang. The wise don't shut one down to favor the other. They let each play its part at the right time. The Tao Te Ching says, movement comes from stillness, and stillness is sustained by movement. That's the rhythm of the universe and of the human soul too. When we're in tune, our words flow out of silence, simple, precise, alive. But when we're off balance, we talk to fill the emptiness, and all that noise just becomes another way of running from ourselves. That's where the third thing wise people don't share comes in: the extremes of their emotions. They know both their light and their shadow, but they don't broadcast every swing to the world. They get that feelings are like weather, always changing. When sadness comes, they let yin draw inward. When joy rises, they let yang expand, but they don't cling to either. Balance isn't about staying calm all the time. It's about finding your way back to center when the emotional tide shifts. When anger hits, the wise stay quiet. When excitement surges, they breathe. They understand that every emotion is energy, and when that energy is shared without awareness, it loses its power to transform. Silence, then, becomes a kind of alchemy. It turns impulse into clarity, fire into light. Yin and yang meet when we stop reacting and start responding from presence. Living in balance means knowing there's a time to pull back and a time to express. When speech rises from your center, it's yang serving yin, movement born from silence. When stillness comes from clarity, it's yin serving yang, rest preparing for action. So the wise speak gently and stay quiet with purpose. Every gesture, every word moves like the wind, effortless, focused, and full of life. With ChatGPT, and in that state of harmony, silence stops being just a personal practice. It becomes a way of living with others. The wise know not everyone's ready to hear certain truths, just like not every patch of soil is ready to take a seed. So they only share what can actually take root in someone else's heart. It's not about hiding what they feel, it's about respecting where each person is on their path. Balancing yin and yang also means finding balance between your inner and outer worlds. Life doesn't ask us to be only quiet and introspective, or only expressive and loud. It asks us to be whole. Silence and speech, stillness and movement, they're all parts of the same song. When both play together, harmony happens. So here's the third lesson of silence. Don't share your emotions when you're off balance. Wait for the storm in your mind to settle before you speak. Let yin cool down the fire of yang, and let yang bring light to yin's calm. When emotion is spoken from peace, it heals. When it's spoken from chaos, it hurts. The wise understand that words only carry real power when they still smell of the silence that came before them. That's why they don't talk much, but when they do, it's real. And when they hold things back, it's not out of fear, it's out of love for harmony. They know the world stays balanced in the dance between sound and stillness. And that life itself is this constant back and forth between yin and yang. And so, walking this soft dance, we reach the final lesson of the silent path, the moment of full integration. When silence stops being something you do and becomes something you are. It's the point where the soul rests in itself, fully aligned with the Tao. It's a return to the whole where nothing needs to be hidden or revealed, because everything just is. When yin and yang finally find balance within us, silence stops being a choice. It becomes as natural as breathing. The wise no longer think, should I speak or not? They just move in sync with the moment. That's the state of integration, where what's said and what's unsaid come from the same piece. Silence turns into a language the heart understands without words. The Tao Te Ching puts it beautifully. Those who are in harmony with the Tao are like valleys open, quiet, and full of life. The valley doesn't compete with the mountain. It just receives what flows down and turns it into growth. That's what it's like for someone who's made peace with silence. They don't resist or show off. They just flow. Everything they do comes from inner stillness, which is why it carries real strength, even when it looks effortless. And that brings us to the fourth thing wise people don't share their spiritual center. What's most sacred, most vast, most peaceful inside them can't really be put into words. Not because of pride, but because the sacred doesn't fit into explanation. The mystery of the Tao can't be described, only lived. The wise understand that the deeper their connection to the whole, the quieter they become. They don't need to prove their faith or announce their peace. Their very presence says it all. Oh, ChatGPTs, there's a quiet kind of beauty in not saying everything. It's like the scent of a flower. It doesn't announce itself. It just fills the air around it. That spiritual center inside us is that same kind of flower. The quieter it is, the stronger it becomes. When we try to explain the mystery of life, the mind breaks it apart. When we simply live it, the heart just knows. That's why wise people don't rush to put the unexplainable into words. They'd rather let their calm presence speak a soft gesture, a grounded gaze, a silence that holds space. To be one with the Tao is to understand that nothing's really separate. What's seen and unseen are just two faces of the same energy. Silence and speech are like two waves in the same ocean. When silence lives in your heart, even your words carry peace. And when your movement flows with the Tao, even silence becomes action. At that point, there's nothing left to hide or show, just the flow itself. The wise who live in that space know that silence isn't just inside them, it's around them too. They speak when it's time, stay quiet when it's right, and both are done in perfect balance. Silence becomes like the pause between notes in a song, the space where sound gets to breathe. It's the foundation of peace, the cradle of intuition, the home of wisdom. So here's the fourth teaching. Don't share what's too sacred to put into words. Protect what's pure inside you, not as a secret, but out of reverence. The spiritual doesn't need to be explained, it just needs to be lived. And when you live it quietly, it grows. Like the moon that shines without saying a thing, a peaceful soul inspires without trying to teach. When silence and being become one, the outside world can't really shake you anymore. Harmony stops depending on what's happening around you. It comes from within, like a spring that never runs dry. Wu Wei, yin and yang, silence and presence All of it blends into one single movement, the natural flow of life, and that's where the path comes full circle, returning to the start. What began as an invitation to silence reveals itself as wholeness. Nothing was lost, nothing was suppressed. Everything was transformed into wisdom. The silence that once felt like a choice now feels like something that's always been there, patient, watching, embracing, like a river that twists and turns just to find its way back to the sea. The path of wisdom is really a return to what's never stopped being. Those who've learned to be quiet realize that silence isn't emptiness, it's fertile space where the unseen blooms in its own time. What wise people never share doesn't come from pride, it comes from reverence for life. They know some mysteries lose their magic when turned into rushed words. They know calm is a kind of protection. That time is the natural guardian of maturity, and that silence is the cradle where the essential takes root. The dew doesn't explain its lightness, the wind doesn't announce its direction, and still, both do their job perfectly. The wise are the same way, living in harmony, with no need to prove what they know. The river of consciousness has learned how to flow around the rocks. It doesn't get frustrated with the detours anymore, because it gets that every curve is part of the way back to the ocean. When water accepts the shape of the land, it doesn't lose its nature, it just flows. That's what real wisdom is about, letting life guide you without losing who you are. Silence isn't a wall that separates, it's an invisible bridge that connects your being to everything around you. When you hold something in silence, a dream, a pain, a prayer, you're letting the timing of the Tao take care of what's not ready yet. A flower doesn't need to be forced open. It blooms when the sunlight hits it. It's the same with your intentions, your plans, your healing. When you let them rest with patience, they naturally unfold. That's the secret of silence, trusting that life knows what it's doing. The wise don't fear sound or avoid words. They just know that silence is home, the place where every voice begins. Sound and silence are like siblings, one reveals the other. When you speak from silence, your words become healing. When you act from stillness, your actions become truth. Silence is the soil where everything real takes root. And so we circle back to the beginning. The dew that once vanished under the sun now becomes light. What used to be the need to explain has turned into presence. What used to be searching has become the path itself. Silence stopped being just a place to hide. It's become a way of being wide, calm, whole. May you walk lightly, learning to feel the difference between what should be shared and what should be kept close. May your silence be full, not empty. May it hold rather than hide, and may it shine even without words. Take a breath. Feel the space between one thought and the next. That tiny pause is the Tao flowing through you. There's no effort there, just life. May stillness follow you like a river that reaches the sea without rushing. May wisdom surround you like the wind touching the bamboo, strong yet flexible. And may every word you speak, born from silence, be an echo of peace in the heart of the world. If this message touched something in you, drop a comment and tell me what resonated most. Maybe it was a phrase, an image, or just that lingering sense of peace that comes after the quiet. I love reading what each soul feels when it hears the Tao in its own rhythm. Write slowly, like you're letting a leaf drift down a river. No rush, just presence. Your words become ripples of wisdom that inspire others along the way. Let's build a space together for reflection and calm, where every word is a seed and every silence a gesture of gratitude.